The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
My next guest is Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Many of you know him as the sometimes controversial sheriff from Maricopa County, Arizona. Those of you who read WorldNet Daily know that he has launched a cold case posse investigation into Barack Obama's birth certificate. Those of you who don't read WorldNet Daily don't have any idea what I'm talking about. Sheriff Joe, welcome to the show.
My pleasure talking to you and your great organization.
Well, I have to tell you that the Tea Party members that I know are all big fans of Joe Arpaio, and the comment I hear most about you at Tea Parties is, man, we could use a sheriff like that in our county. So great work there in Maricopa County. I'm
the sheriff of Maricopa County. There's 4 million people here that we know of. There's a few others floating around, and but it's good to have the support of people across our nation.
Well, it's my understanding that you may make a run for the U.S. Senate at some point, so it must be good to know there are people throughout the country who would like to have you in Washington helping the people.
Well, the point is pretty close. I got a little door opening, but if I was a betting guy, I'd say I'm running for sheriff again next year for my 6th 4-year term.
Very good. Now, 4 million people in Maricopa County, how many of those people actually have their papers in order?
I don't know, but the story is 100,000 have left. I'd like to take some credit for being the only law enforcement agency enforcing 2 state laws, and I'm not talking about the 1070. I'm talking about employers and human smuggling. We arrested, investigated, and on the streets and in our jails 50,000 illegal aliens. I think that's pretty good just for the sheriff's office.
I think it's very good. Did you ever think that just going out and doing your job would have you labeled as being controversial?
Well, I think I do the job, but I may go above and beyond. That's the way my life has been. I always work hard and always pay attention. I was joined the Army when the Korean War broke out. I was a cop in D.C., Vegas, federal drug enforcement for 30 years, now sheriff. So I always worked hard to get the job done, and I'm just continuing that as the sheriff.
Well, speaking of doing your job, you have launched a cold case posse investigation into Barack Obama's birth certificate. This country has tens of thousands of law enforcement people. We've got people in Washington, D.C. who are supposed to be elected to represent us. You're kind of our last hope, Sheriff Joe. Why is it that you're the only law enforcement person in the United States willing to tackle this issue?
Well, I don't know. The Tea Party came to see me. They had 200 petitions asking me to look at it. Anybody that comes to me to ask for help or to look at some possible violation of the law, I don't dump it in the wastebasket. So I did farm it out to my cold case posse. I have 3,000 volunteers. Cold case is one of my units, so it only can work under the constitutional sheriff, so it's free of charge for all those critics that I'm wasting money, taxpayers' money. It's not costing a penny, but still I'm getting the job done. We've been investigating it. Some interesting facts are coming out. Dr. Corsi, we've been talking to him, and it's very interesting. What we're coming up with, I'm not at liberty to say it right now,
sure,
but we're sure putting the time. The cold case posse is made up of cops, ex-cops, and lawyers, so, hey, I got all that expertise and work for nothing.
And I understand you can't talk about an ongoing investigation, but based on what you're suggesting, you don't think it's been a waste of cold case posse's time?
No, I don't think it's a waste of time. There's a lot of smoke there. Now we got to find the fire.
Now, again, you have come under a lot of criticism in your career. I've been following you for some time. Frankly, I enjoy the idea that they've got the pink boxer shorts at your prison, the pink handcuffs. You've got people living in tents. You've got that mugshot thing where you post the mugshots online and people actually vote for their favorite mugshot. Seems like the younger, prettier girls who've been arrested for indecent exposure seem to get the most votes. But at any rate, you've done a lot of things that have captured the attention of the media. However, this is pretty controversial, and you're being ignored by the mainstream media.
You mean the birther investigation?
Yeah, what you're doing right now, the birther investigation.
Yeah, that's interesting, how that's been blocked out. I thought it'd be very controversial. A lot of people don't like what I'm doing. It could be on both sides of the fence. I'm talking about politics.
Right.
But, I'm doing what I feel is right, and we don't do it halfway, go all the way. And with some of the information we came up with, could possibly clear the president. So I doubt if they're going to cooperate, but we'll work it, and I hope that the people will understand that we gave it our shot, and let's see what happens, regardless of the politics involved.
Well, I think as you referenced the politics, I know whenever Clinton was impeached by the House, there were a lot of people in the Senate who felt, let's not remove this guy from office because he better serves the Republican Party by leaving him in office and leaving him injured. And there are a lot of people, and I think you've alluded to this in some of your speeches, who think, well, if we take this guy out on the birth certificate issue, then the Republicans are going to have to run against Hillary Clinton the next time around, and she would be a more formidable opponent at this point. Is that, when you reference politics, is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it could be, but that's not right. They should look at the law, the Constitution, and go by that, not who may become president or the real politics of it. If he's here illegally, that's a big issue. So whether he leaves or not, if someone else takes his place, it may be more difficult to beat. That should not even enter the picture. Doing the right thing should be what people want, not the politics of it.
Well, it seems like the politics is certainly winning out, because I have a very tough time finding guests to come on this program and talk about the issue. And I've had some Fox News contributors on the show, and in one case we had to stop the taping because the person said they didn't want any more questions about it, and they weren't going to waste another breath full of oxygen to discuss it. So it seems to me like people are either worried about being labeled some kind of a lunatic, or there are other people who suggest that we're going to have massive civil unrest from coast to coast if anyone were to go after the president for this. Do you foresee anything like that happening?
Well, I don't know. I'm surprised at Fox. I thought the media was supposed to report news, whether it's good, bad, or whatever. I don't know why they're editorializing to say we're not going to touch this when it is a controversial issue that has not been put to rest. It's still there. The public still is interested in it. So I can't understand why the media isn't talking about it, whether they agree with it or not. That's not their issue, whether they agree with something. They should be reporting the news. So what you just said seems to indicate that some of these news media people will make the decision whether they like someone, they don't like someone, they like a program, they don't like the program, and make decisions on that. That's not right in our system.
I couldn't agree with you more. And again, I'm shocked, given your name recognition, how well known a national individual you are, that people aren't all over you for this. At least, I'm surprised that at least in a negative way, someone, hasn't gone after you and said, "Oh, look what Sheriff Joe's doing."
You're very astute. They report when I go to the toilet. Here I am taking on a big issue, whether it's negative or positive, and they're not reporting what this sheriff is doing. Anything I do that's controversial is all over the world, especially the illegal immigration and other Justice Department investigations. I can go on and on. Why are they leaving this one alone? I can't figure that one out. Just like in Mexico City, when they had a summit meeting with the President of Canada, Prime Minister, and the President of Mexico about drugs and illegal immigration, and 2 weeks later, the Mexican president legalized drugs. Nobody would talk about it. I had a fight to get it in the AP. Why aren't they talking about it? You can go to Mexico and score cocaine, heroin, and everything, and then the President of Mexico is blasting us because we have all the customers here. Why did the media not talk about that?
They seem to be very selective in what they choose to report. And, I've heard one person say that with Obama in office and the support that he's received from the media, it's the closest thing we've ever had to a state-run media. It's been absolutely ridiculous. I have to say that I'm encouraged to find that there's at least one good man left in law enforcement, especially one who has political aspirations who, unless I'm wrong, you're not the slightest bit concerned as to how this might affect a U.S. Senate bid.
No, I don't have any political aspirations. I could have been a governor 4 times. The U.S. Senate thing is just a little thing I threw out to make the opponents suffer a little. But if I was a betting man, I'm going to be the sheriff for another 4 years. Make some people angry, all those open border politicians going after me. So I'm not going away, and I guarantee you that. I'll be around a long time as the sheriff.
That's good to know. I wish we could get some more sheriffs throughout the United States to take your approach. Now, here's my question about the cold case investigation, the cold case posse investigation. Let's say they come to you. I think you're anticipating this to come to conclusion around January or so, and they lay the report on your desk. You read the thing, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio is convinced that there's something here and that perhaps the President of the United States is not eligible to be in office. What can you do with it from that point? Obviously a bit out of your jurisdiction, but what could you do?
Yeah, I'm already halfway convinced. We haven't finished the thing yet. That's a good question. What do I do with this? Who do I give it to? So that's something I'm going to have to face. I probably will give it to the media, but I don't know if they'll print it. But, yeah, I got to look at the report and decide where to go from there. But we're doing our job. We're gathering the facts, and we'll put it out and see what happens.
Well, I, again, appreciate that. As somebody who's been involved in this issue for a while, I got to tell you, I was unsure at first, but then when the actual birth certificate, or what they called the birth certificate, was released out of D.C., and I talked to a handful of computer experts, and plus I stuck the thing on my computer and blew it up myself and started, taking it apart, I became convinced. You said that there was definitely some smoke here. So we appreciate, when I say we, I'm talking about birthers across America, that, when the surprise Tea Party came to you, that you didn't laugh them out of your office and say, you must be crazy if you think I'm going to get involved in something like this. You actually did your job and decided to investigate. And after, you consider all the rejection that we've faced, it's nice to have one person, particularly someone nationally known like yourself, who isn't running away from the issue. So on behalf of Tea Partiers and birthers, and there's a lot of overlap in that area, I just want to say thank you for doing the job that nobody else seems to be willing to pick up. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you, and thanks for your fine work.
Well, we're going to keep pushing it, and we're not going to give up. Now, I'll tell you this, I'm just seeking the truth, and most of the people who listen to my show, most of the people I've been involved with, and I've got a lot of people I'm working with behind the scenes, we all say the same thing. If this investigation comes out and it proves that he's a U.S. citizen and that we've been wrong all this time, we'll drop it. We will. We're just looking for the truth. And I appreciate what you said as well. And that's pretty much all I had for you today. I just want to thank you for being on, and hopefully maybe we can have you back in January to discuss the results of the investigation.
Okay, and call me anytime, and thanks for your support.
Well, you've got our support, Sheriff Joe. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.